this is how I had to resort to. This is our last free sample of this energy drink.
By the way, we're
Rain.
live.
Oh, are we? Well, they
Yep.
get to see this show episode sponsored by
Not
Rain
at all.
Energy Drinks.
Not at all sponsored. Don't fucking listen to him.
What, you think they listen to me anyways?
I think they don't have a choice.
Well, they do.
AI.
There's a play and pause button.
No. AI hasn't given us an option to selectively mute one fucking idiot on a podcast. Or else
Wow.
it'd be a lot easier to listen to the Sevan podcast because occasionally I'd just be like, mute Sevan and just like listen to whoever he's interviewing. And that being said, like, I love the Sevan podcast and I love the things he talks about. I just hate the way he talks about them. Welcome back to the talking. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I really should like let go of my bias on Sevan from like 2020 when he decided to say fuck you to CrossFit One Nation and like listen to his podcast. I'm sure there are like good things he talks about and good. I mean, he's so passionate about CrossFit.
Absolutely.
That like I'm sure there would be good stuff on there. I just have refused to listen to it.
Yeah.
Because I'm petty.
I've tried. I can't. But this isn't the Sevan podcast. We're the Talking Average Fitness podcast, of course. My name is Sam Burns, joined as always by my friend Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
Caffeinated.
Love it.
Yeah, you know, I gotta learn to embrace that dad life.
Yeah, you do.
Get that sorted out. Get the caffeine ready to rock.
Yeah, it's been announced. Kevin's having a little girl.
We are little girl. January 31st. We're kicking off 2024 with one heck of a bang.
Yeah, a lot of poopy diapers.
And so many poopy diapers.
It's gonna be fun. You'll be fine.
It's gonna well, Sammy and I have kind of like the agreement that when we've like babysat our 1-year-old niece Remy, and like when we started taking her for a weekend when she was like 2 months old, so that my brother and sister-in-law could have like a weekend to themselves. So we did it like once a month. And so when we'd have her, it's like whenever she was, had poopy diapers, it was, Sammy was like, I got this, you take care of cleaning this up or setting up this or taking care of her bottle or whatever. She would be like, I got the diaper, you take care of whatever else needs to happen. And I was
you're not going to be able to pull that.
Captain. That's what you think.
So I'm going to tell you right now. Especially if Sammy ends up breastfeeding, right?
Yep.
So early on, baby's going to need to eat at least every 3 hours. All night long, she's going to be, gain train. So she's going to be staying up and she's going to be trying to, feed this baby and then get this baby to go back to sleep. And the baby's not going to go want back to sleep. And at some point, you're going to get a tap on the shoulder in the middle of the night. And she's like, I just can't fucking do this. I need you to change this diaper while I nod the fuck off for 5 minutes and then bring her back to me when you're done.
So I have here's my theory. I have an idea, right? Because we're talking about like building the dad bod where it's like, all right, I'm trying to get jacked, right? So every time the baby needs to eat, I do a protein shake.
It's a bad idea.
We just get absolutely massive.
This is already a bad idea. I'm going to tell you why this is a bad idea. It's because you're going to do all the eating and none of the working out that is required to actually convert that into mass.
That's what you think. Well, I'm like getting her to fall asleep. I'm just doing like AMRAP air squats, baby. Like,
You let me know how that works out for you.
I hope that anyone listening is like, sometimes I feel like I say stuff and Sam like in the back of his head is like, is he being serious? I feel like he's being kind of serious. Like this guy's kind of an idiot. Questioning his friendship with me.
I'm going to let you do that because if you can, it'll be crazy impressive. But if you're like every other human being, you're going to be like sleep or burpees. Maybe sleep.
Burpee nap.
Yeah,
burpee nap. That's how you mix the both. You go down, doze off for a sec, pop back up, clap, down, doze off for a sec.
I'm so excited on so many levels for you.
So am I. It's going to be quite the challenge.
And this is also 100% not what we were going to talk about.
No, not at all.
No. So I want to.
Speaking of moving and shit.
Well, I want to read the message that Kevin sent to me because it's a great way to sum up kind of how we decide to do things. Yes, I've got an idea for a topic this week. Do high-level athletes have the right to move, in quotes, poorly, question mark? Not sure if that's the best way to word it, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. And like, it's not like it wasn't English. Like, of course I would
Well,
understand.
no, but I meant like, because you and I had talked about this like a while ago, just kind of bounced around, like basically like have, if it was like have elite athletes, or like
Mm,
once you reach a certain level of CrossFit, we'll throw them in the bucket of competitor. Like, have you earned the
mm,
right to maybe sacrifice some movement quality in
yeah.
exchange for potentially performance? And
Yeah.
like, I don't know how much I believe that, but we're going to talk about it. But that was kind of like the question in my head. And so like when I was, phrasing it, is basically like, once you're fit enough, is it okay if you move like shit?
Oh,
I
you
don't
know
know.
what I just realized?
What's up?
I need a whiteboard implement. Um, Stay right
Okay.
here. Entertain people
I
for like
Yeah.
20 seconds. I'll be right back.
Oh man. But I think it's a really interesting question, because when you watch, so we're kind of on the heels of the 2023 CrossFit Games. Um, and while you're watching the games, there might be some things that you see during an event, during a workout, during a lifting piece, or the Olympic lifting event from Saturday night, where you watch some of these athletes move and you're like, ooh, I'm not sure if I would have been okay with that, if my coach would have been okay with that, what the standards might be. You see something and you're like, that doesn't look quite right. Yeah, and you might start to ask yourself the question, why are they moving like that if they're the best in the sport, type thing? Like, these are supposed to be the best of us athletically. How come their kneecaps are allowed to touch when they come out the bottom of a squat clean?
Right. um,
And
so not having heard anything that preceded most of that.
I
Um,
was just saying, like, when you watch the games, you might see some shit and be
sure.
like, ooh, some,
Yeah. I, I think I think there's a distinction that needs to be made between people who are the best at this sport. And when I say the best, I mean they have the greatest capacity, they have the best conditioning, they have the um, best strength adaptation. That does not mean in any way, shape, or form that they are the best movers or examples to be followed, right? Except in terms of like grit and resilience and hard work and will and things
yeah.
like that. Like,
And
absolutely.
sitting there going like, wow, how'd you do Fran twice in 4 minutes?
Exactly. I think that, and I've got my own theories about this. And
Okay. I'd love to hear them and know them.
an example of this would be, like athletes, and this is super common, and we've talked about this jokingly, but like athletes not wrapping their thumb around a pull up bar, right? So
Hmm.
you would think, from a safety standpoint, from a leverage and force production standpoint, that it would be a no brainer, that you would want to like grip onto a bar in this position so that you could keep one hand stable, hinge around the wrist, right? And be able
Hmm.
to press down more effectively into the bar. That is not in any way the majority of what happens. Most people are doing yeah, so it's not even like that, because what ends up happening, let's see if I can find something to
Like hanging
kind
on
of,
their fingertips. Is that what we're getting at?
well, it's kind of like a hang on the fingertips, but it's
Like
even
bars here and I'm
be,
here.
because it's using an implement. So let's say this little thing is my wrist wrap, right? What
Yeah.
happens is they flop the wrist wrap
Oh, I'm with
over
you.
the bar, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
pinch it
With their
against the
fingertips.
bar. Yeah, with their
Yeah,
fingertips. So they're not
absolutely.
actually
Yes.
holding the bar.
No, you're
They're
using your gymnastic grip as a lifting strap.
Yeah, exactly. They're supporting
The
their weight with the
the
object.
the
With the
tension when you do that, and I can say it because I do this, um, which again just increases Sam's disappointment in me. Is when you flop it over, you jump up and you get the point on your grip
Yeah.
like close enough to the heel of your palm over,
Yep.
and then what ends up happening is the tension is now on your wrist on the gymnastic grip. It's not on my actual like forearm muscles,
Right.
if that makes sense. So I'm
Right.
relying on mechanical tension of that grip to hold myself on there. Um, And that's not to say that it takes away like all grip factor, because your grip still blows up, but it's
Well,
like
you're
your
still
grip,
holding your wrist in a position and your forearms under tension,
right,
and so blah blah
right,
blah.
the whole thing. But
Yeah,
it makes it easier, 1,000%.
yeah. Well, because you don't actually have to hold the thing. Now, so back to the original point. Like, here's my assertion: is
Mm-hmm.
you should not emulate that at all. I don't care who the fuck you are. Like, and certainly if you're not already a quarterfinals level CrossFitter, you should not do that, right? So for anyone who is an average human being, I consider myself an average human being, I don't need you to copy what insert CrossFit athlete name here. I don't need you to copy what they're doing. I need you to wrap your fucking hand, all four fingers and a thumb, around the bar so that you don't fall off. Period, full stop. So like it becomes a safety issue right off the whack. After that, until you learn how to like move your body in space at an elite level of conditioning and capacity, then I need you to understand how to hold your wrist in a certain position so you can apply proper force into the bar so you can actually do the thing that you tell me you want to do. Because if you flail about and throw your hips at the bar and hope that somehow your chin gets somewhere close to the top of the bar, like, okay, you're telling me you want to pull up, but you're not pulling anything. You're trying to hump the bar and hoping your face gets involved somehow. So like, don't. So, and then now we get to like in the same way that Pat Barber was talking about bodybuilding, like bodybuilding aesthetics can be part of the reason that somebody gets attracted to CrossFit, right?
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit Games athletes, the entertainment factor, the idolization can be part of the reason someone gets attracted to CrossFit. And I don't want to take that away from anybody. It's entertaining as hell. But I don't think you can, other than I don't want to have to use my hands and I've got strong enough lats and hips to not have to use my hands, I don't think you can come up with a good reason for why they do that. Like there's nothing that's safer about it.
It's literally because for those athletes, and let's say like you're a CrossFit Games athlete, you have built, as Sam is alluding to, you have built up more than requisite lat, bicep, midline, hip, everything strength.
Yes.
That then doing the flop the grip over and use it as a lifting strap allows you to, and we talked about this with like when we were talking about the Masters, and I went on a rant about like if you're gonna take away gear, then take away the gear. It's not those athletes.
To be clear, which time did you go on a rant?
Almost every time.
Okay, just making sure.
But the Masters episode in particular, it was like, it's not that if you took away the grips and like people can't flop it over, and we just raw dogged every single gymnastics movement on a pull-up bar, those games athletes would still be able to rip off more butterfly pull-ups than you, more chest to bar pull-ups than you, more barbell pull-ups than you. They would be able to do more than you.
Yes.
And more than me, more than anybody. They still have the capacity. What the grip technique, the flop over technique allows them to do is just better express their capacity, because it takes a little bit of the grip factor out of it.
And here,
it also makes it so like it. This is just grips in general, like whether you do the flop or not. Is it like you're doing so much volume of gymnastic stuff that it like protects the skin on your hands and makes it so you're like there's less friction between your hand and the bar. And you say that I will stand by that statement. Whether
I think maybe at the volume that they are doing it, but like I think, and this is my own assertion, and this really comes back to the issue that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. What we see at the CrossFit Games is an expression of physical dominance. And again, I'm stealing someone else's words.
Yep.
It is not the expression of physical competence, which is the goal of CrossFit. And it is, we talk about practice versus training versus competition. Nobody who's in a CrossFit gym should be competing. absent of those people who are occasionally doing a local throwdown, or you are really getting after the open with the intention of trying to make it to quarterfinals or something like that.
It's a benchmark test or something.
Sure.
Like you're trying to like retest your Fran and like I'm a giver type deal.
But even then, and this is where thank God for definitions. So like I think about, I'll never forget Denise Thomas's definitions, and I'm sure they're not Denise's, but Denise is who I heard it from. The definition for an advanced level CrossFitter. An advanced level CrossFitter is a person who can, on any given day, walk into the affiliate and do the workout as prescribed, regardless of movement difficulty, loading, or intended stimulus. And they can't do that once, they can do that every day,
every single day.
That is an advanced level CrossFitter, which means automatically almost every human you know who's in a CrossFit gym is an intermediate or novice level CrossFitter, right?
Yeah, I mean that the people that falls into the thing was the same thing that Sam was saying. Is like unless you're an advanced level CrossFit, or as you said it before, unless you're like that kind of like upper echelon quarterfinals level athlete, because that's that person. If you are, if
it's that person.
If you're qualifying for quarterfinals, then
now we're getting into the programming of the Open, and does it really express blah blah blah.
Well, okay, so but I said upper, like if you're finishing in the top 500 of quarterfinals, like you are that advanced level CrossFitter where like
if you're finishing in the top 500 quarterfinals, sure, but like making it to quarterfinals, different ballgame.
Well, okay, that's why I said the upper part. Okay. I didn't put a number on it, but now I did. If you're in the upper 500,
you made me do that. Why'd you make me do that?
Why'd you fucking do that? God damn. That's all I had.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So, so I have a good analogy. So first of all, I don't think the elite level athletes have earned the right to move like shit. I think
but they do.
I think they do, and I think that,
or some of them do. To be like, I
think really where they move like shit is gymnastics.
I think there's some examples of like people doing barbell movements, and I mean, if it like, well, I guess burpees, like, would it be like you watch people do burpees and you're like, I don't know if there's like, we want to split hairs on like how to like do a proper burpee, but there are some people that do burpees and you're like, wow, like that's a crisp looking burpee. And then there's others where it's like, okay, you're just trying not to die.
Yeah.
And there's moments where that's a thing, and like a burpee is a relatively harmless, Absolutely. Like, you're getting down and getting back up. But there is some like movement quality, movement efficiency that goes with that. But I remember watching like the CrossFit Total back in 2018 and watching Tia Toomey's kneecaps touch coming up out of the bottom of a back squat. And I'm like, and this is the fittest woman in the world. And she's built the capacity to like, even though I squat like shit, she's still the fittest to ever do it. Like she's the fittest human being to do fitness.
Do the things.
To do the things. And she just does some of the things poorly. And that's a load thing. Like when she does like 65-pound thrusters, like things look like pretty solid.
Pretty crisp. Yeah.
Pretty crisp. But it's like, as the load gets heavier, and we know this, as load gets heavier, intensity gets higher, movement faults become more present.
Right.
But they're also like some of the people like at the top of the sport, when people are like, oh, like, I think the excuse is like for Tia, it's like she does, as soon as she gets above 90%, the knees start caving in. They're like, well, she can back squat 5,000 pounds anyway. So what the fuck's the problem? Like she's already this strong. So like, why fix it? And I'm like, well, go ahead.
Well, so I know the answer. The answer is she's making a shit ton of money to back squat that load.
Exactly. And you're going for the performance, and you're like, and again, it's the same logic as like, if I am Shane and I'm watching Tia squat and I'm like, the only time it's a problem is when she's above 90%. And the only time she really has to like give her something is like on the day of competition. If you're training, like you're back, you're at the games. When you're training, like you're doing, 85, 90% reps per volume for like strength accumulation. It's like, then it's not, but then like, why fix it? She's out squatting everybody else with this one fault. I'll say one fault. Why fix it? Because she's winning. So the things that when you find an athlete that consistently competes at a really high level and moves really well, you have your Rich Fronings, your Ben Smith, your Matt Fraser, trying to think of like a great example. Like as she matured in the sport, like Cara Saunders, formerly Cara Webb. I think everybody like in the beginning portions of CrossFit, like up until like the 2014 games, like you had a couple people that moved well, and everybody else was like still trying to like get there. Now it's like such an efficiency thing that like if you have any fault in your movement, you are just wasting energy.
Yeah.
Just trying to compensate for that, like your knees cave in, your chest falls forward, like you do those things on a thruster, like your thrusters are infinitely harder than someone who can keep their knees out, chest up, and just move in a straight line of action.
Yeah.
That's just easy. That you can just do like the sniff test on that one. You don't need to do any fancy math equations. You just like, oh, yep, looks like this it looks easier for them. That's because it's because they move well. So I don't know, like you see examples of high level athletes that move really, really well and like are the epitome of like, wow, that's a phenomenal expression of that movement and of all the movements across the board. And those are usually the athletes that finish on top, right? We saw this year at the games, like I'll use the example of Jeff Adler. He's currently the fittest man in the world.
Yes, he is.
You'd be pretty hard pressed to find faults in Jeff's movements, except when he going bonkers on that dumbbell snatch and just left his hips, like his legs locked out and just like, bam, just
he forgot his knees existed.
Yeah, just fully turtle shell back in that bitch and just moving it.
Fully turtle shell back in that bitch.
Exactly.
So I'm looking for an Instagram post that I have saved. Ben Bergeron has a, here we go. I'm going to open this. And then I'm going to share this bad boy.
Was it the analogy that he was given with like Brooke and Cole and Katrin one day, like doing CompTrain camp?
No, it was.
Okay. All right, never mind.
This is from CrossFit New England. Forever and ever and ever go. Not forever. So practice, training, competition, right? So because we think about this logically, we have definitions for this, right? So we have intensity. Very low is in practice, moderate to high in training, and maximum intensity in competition, which means you should never reach maximum intensity in your training. And to be clear, CrossFit is a training program. That's what we do, is a CrossFit training program, not a CrossFit competing program, right? Practice work. Your heart rate should be relatively low, 65% or lower. As I like to say, when the heart rates rise, the IQ falls. So you can't operate it, right? Like for coaches out there who doubt me, try giving a complex cue mid-workout and see how well that works out for you.
Not at all.
Not so much. Focus should be super high. Load is relatively light for practice. Training and competition, and this is the part that I want to zoom in on. Competition heart rate 90 to 100%. Competition loading 95% or higher. To your point about she only lifts X number of things. Focus subconscious. There is no actual thinking going on when you have an athlete operating at the highest level. They've done all the thinking. They've done the thinking for a full year so that they could be ready to not think and just do mid-competition.
That's where it comes to, got rid of me.
There we go.
That's how AI sounds to me. Sam just pressed the button, I just go away. But it's that is something like when it comes to competitive CrossFit that I think people, when you're rocking up to a competition, if you're a high enough level athlete, if you're like, I'm starting into it, I'm doing local competitions, then this is different. This doesn't apply to that. But you're rocking up to semifinals, you're rocking up to Wodapalooza, the games, whatever it is. There's no question in your mind what you see the event presented to you, and you know exactly how long this is going to take, how many times you're breaking up this movement, and the pace that you can hold on that run. Like you know exactly what it is. Like you don't have to think about it. Your body just does it. You're like, okay, I'm doing 3 rounds of 400-meter run with 12 muscle ups and 21 snatches. Sick. I'm holding a 120, 400. Like, and you don't have to think about it. Athletes aren't looking at their watches while they're going, like keeping track of their 100-meter splits, trying to figure that out. They're just going. And then you look at, Jeff.
What heart rate zone am I in?
Who fucking knows? My Whoop will tell me afterwards.
Right. And when I learn how to read again.
Yeah, exactly. When I can see straight. But it's like when Jeff's going, they're like, all right, first 400 was like a minute 14. The next one was like a minute 17. The next one's a minute 20. He doesn't have to think about that. He's just in his zone. He's in a flow state. He's just going. His body is doing what he's trained it to do. Yep. You hold this pace for this long, and that's how we win. And that's where, like, sometimes when it comes down to, just to speak a little bit of like volume stuff for training for competing, it's like that's sometimes where the volume comes in, is just giving you enough experience doing these things where you're like, I know exactly the paces I can hold. Yep. I know exactly how many sets I need to break up the 12 muscle ups, if at all. And then I know, you know what you don't have to think about it. Exactly as Sam was saying, like in competition, there's maybe subconscious whatever, where like you have to like, okay, shit, my muscle ups blew up. I got to switch game plans real quick. Right. But again, it's not like a high process thought, because you have it in the back. You're like, I know if I'm not doing 12 unbroken, I'm doing 8 and 4. And then as soon as you come down from the pull up, as soon as you're going through and you come down, you're like, yep, 8 was there, 4 is the next one. It's, you don't have to think about it. It's not an active thought, because you've spent so much time training your body to just do it.
Right. Well, so I want to do a visual presentation at this point, right? So here's my thesis, that movement can be better, and without sacrificing movement quality, or rather without sacrificing capacity. All right, so I'm gonna zoom out a little bit here, right? So
yeah,
whiteboard, because all coaches need a whiteboard, right?
Always.
So the workout we're going to talk about today is the workout Karen. All right, so Karen, if you don't know, is 150 wall balls for time, right? So you're going to do those 150 wall balls, standard wall ball weight, 20 for males, 14 for females, 10-foot target for males, 9-foot target for females, as fast as humanly possible. Now, if you're a coach, you probably also recognize this shape from your Sickness Wellness Fitness Yep.
Oh man! Listen, I was gonna mess with something. Like it's a beautiful. Where's the pot of gold?
Have you ever read the book The Martian?
No.
So I
didn't see the movie The Martian either.
Oh, you should. Both of them. Don't read the book, but watch the movie for sure. And so in the book, like if you're a geek, then read the book, because it's like super nerdy. So one of the things that goes on is like this guy's stranded on Mars. And so he's chatting back and forth with Houston, and they're trying to like send him ships that have food and stuff like this. And so there's this one part in the book where they're going to send him a probe, and the probe's going to land. It's going to leave him food and stuff like that. And the guy from Houston is typing and is like, so this probe, it's called Iris. It'll leave on such and such date. It'll arrive on such and such date. It'll have this much food, these many tools, blah, blah, blah. By the way, Iris is named for the Greek bringer of,
it's the goddess of messages.
Yeah, goddess of messages.
Goddess of communication, Iris.
Goddess of communication. And also, also the herald of rainbows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so the guy, Watney, was this super dry sense of humor. He responds, he's like, gay probe coming to save me. Got it. Cool. And not wrong, but also like not accurate. Anyway, enough about rainbows. Okay, so we've got this Sickness, Wellness, Fitness continuum, but in our particular case, it's not going to be Sickness, Wellness, Fitness continuum. It's going to be a movement quality continuum, right? So over on the far side, where normally we would see fitness, we're going to see virtuosity or mastery, right? So like the best, prettiest version of a movement possible. Over here, we're going to still call this well. They move well, right?
Yep.
And on this side is injury. Shit. But injury.
Okay.
Right?
Well, they go hand in hand.
Right.
Speaking from experience.
So you take a CrossFit Games athlete.
Yeah.
Insert CrossFit Games athlete here, who can probably do Karen unbroken. That's what, 4 minutes and change for Karen unbroken? Yeah. Okay. Yep. So they're probably going to start right here. They're going to start close to perfect, right? And they're going to go unbroken. So sometime 4.5 minutes later, they're probably not, their 150th wall ball is not going to look like their first, but they're still moving pretty well because they've done a lot of practice, right? So they're probably somewhere over here, right? Then you have your average level CrossFitter, your intermediate level CrossFitter. They're probably going to start somewhere here, right?
Hopefully,
Hopefully.
In a good world.
In a good world, if they've been coached and they know how to take cues and they actually pay the fuck attention. But as they finish, Karen's got to eat them up. And so maybe they don't finish in 4.5 minutes. Maybe they finish in like 7 minutes.
Yeah. I was going to say 7 or 8 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's call it 7 or 8 minutes. So they're a little beyond well, but they're not in danger territory, right?
Right.
Then there's that one athlete. And if you're a coach, you know this person.
You know who it is.
You know it could be male or female.
You can name the 1 to 3 people in your affiliate who is this person.
Absolutely. And so this person, their stuff starts here.
Yeah.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And they pick a 20 or a 14-pound ball, and you know they shouldn't. And
they
you can't talk them out of it.
Ball just because they're like,
and then they add burpees to it because why not?
Yeah.
And then
going to go to the games, bro. Got to get fit.
Somewhere over here, they end up is where they finish. Like they're crashing into the bottom of the squat on the wall ball, and it ain't pretty. So
their elbows are bouncing off their knees. That's the double bounce on a wall ball. Yeah. That's
the double bounce. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
All
right. It's an extra spring on the way up.
So here's a good question for you, Kev.
Okay.
CrossFit Games level athlete.
Yeah.
Training to do Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Would you scale that athlete?
Like based on their movement quality?
Period. Full stop. Would you scale that athlete?
A games athlete training to do Karen?
Right. Using Karen as a training piece, potentially. Or we know Karen's going to show up in the workout. Would you scale that athlete?
Yes, if it was appropriate. If it was like, hey, you're moving like crap with a 20-pound.
It's the same games level athlete who starts over here.
Oh, sorry. Would I scale them? No.
Yeah. Why not?
Because they're moving well.
Could they move better?
They can always move better. So what we're looking for, what we call threshold training.
Yeah.
So we have, if you're moving perfectly the whole time, every rep is the most perfect virtuous thing. There's probably some room for maybe some more intensity. As intensity creeps up and movement starts to come down, you try and reinforce, hey, try and make that movement better. If they're able to make the change, we're good. If they're not able to make the change, then they either need to slow down or adjust load or whatever it is to allow movement quality to come back to a reasonable level. So if you're having a games level athlete they're doing Karen for a training piece, and they are the games level athlete that starts in the virtuous category for movement, then no, that athlete doesn't need to be scaled for that workout.
So I'm gonna make an argument contrary to your suggestion, right?
As I figured.
We'll do.
Sam is drawing a multitude of rainbows for me, ladies and gentlemen.
I am. So many rainbows. All right. So this is not my analogy. This is an analogy that I'm stealing from the opening lecture for TGC. But it's a great analogy that goes beyond gymnastics. We're not talking about a gymnastics movement here. We're talking about weightlifting movement, right? So wall balls.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if I have that athlete who starts over here, right, I want to train them to improve their movement quality. They already move really well, right? And their fall off in terms of movement quality is nowhere near injury, right? But we're trying to take them and make them the fittest, best version of that they can be, right? So what we could do is, as a training piece, you could take 5 different wall ball targets, 5 different wall ball weights, 20, 16, 14, 12, and 10, have them do 30 reps consecutively with each one. So 30 at 20, drop after the 30th, 31st rep is 16, execute. And so same rep range, but decreasing load relative to intensity. So as their movement breakdown would increase, you are decreasing the load, asking them to keep the best movement quality possible. They live there until that's like better or as good as it can be. And then you go 3 sets of 50, 2 sets of 75, and then finally 150 at the full weight. So now their fall off is going to go from, let's say if initially they started here and then they ended here, now their new one is here and here. Okay?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Right. So now compare that to another athlete who doesn't approach this like this. This is event number 1. Event number 2 is a 1-rep max clean and jerk.
Beautifully programmed.
Right. So the person who for whom they do not train with movement quality in mind, right, is going to suffer in the expression of capacity due to their fall off in movement quality.
Yes.
So train for position, train for virtuosity, train for mastery, right? So that in competition you can express that no matter what gets thrown at you, right?
Yeah. I just want to make it clear that the question you asked me did not, like, you set me up for failure on that one.
Oh yeah,
you were
100%.
like, would you scale a games athlete? I'm like, well, if they're the games athlete that moves well, then like, no, they don't need to be scaled. Then you're like, here's how I'd progress someone to move. But if you had asked me, hey, how would you like adjust Karen to train a games athlete to move better? That's a different answer than would you scale a games athlete on Karen? No. Like, God damn it.
Perhaps so. I'll accept that. But it illustrates very well how right I was and how wrong you were. And so I think it was
I don't know about right I am, wrong you were, because I'm not saying it's not an effective demonstration, because that, like, as he's going through, as soon as you picked up the whiteboard, I'm like, I see what he was getting at. Motherfucker set me up for failure. He asked me a question knowing damn well the answer I was going to give. He's like, I'm going to make him seem stupid.
Okay, so of course this is an extreme situation, but like,
yes,
I don't even think there's an attempt being made for things like this.
Not at all. No, not at all.
And so,
well, the only like kind of example I can give for something like that would be like, I remember James telling stories about how like he and Rich, when they were training together at Mayhem, they get like the whole crew gets together.
Yeah.
And this would be like part of their warm up, but it was also like virtuosity practices. They would do 10 to 15 air squats every 30 seconds for like 5 minutes. Yeah. So you've done 10 sets, you've got 100 to 150 air squats in. It was part of your warm up for that day.
Yeah.
But it's like the goal was to make those the most perfectest air squats ever. And it's like, so that's part of like, you are practicing and training that virtuosity of that movement, as well as training. Exactly. As well as like volume of that movement. It's just part of your warm up. And so, you know, it's not under load, but like there is still, and I mean, you look at Rich and James, they're two of the best movers in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And it's not a specific mobility program. It didn't require a subscription to Pliability.
I was going to say, there's no fucking GoWOD.
Yeah. Not that those things don't have value if, you know, you like them and you find value in them. However, there's very little that will improve your squat position than spending time squatting well.
Yeah.
You know, like it's really hard to downward dog your way to a better squat position.
Said so well.
You know,
but it's the truth, man. Like
it is. It's so much the truth. Like when you're at, like, I remember talking to James, like because James moved really well and I moved like a bag of dicks when I was like starting at One Nation. And I was like, James, like, you know, what do I need to do mobility wise? And he was like, squat better.
Yeah.
And I was like, you what? And he was like, well, you know, the thing that you learned in your level 1 squat therapy, do that shit. He's like, do it. So then I remember as we were going through and I was getting ready to like put in my application for seminar staff, and Lachlan was like, you know, Lachlan had got on seminar staff, like, you know, prior to me putting my application in about 6 months prior. And he was like, I want my demos to be better. Yeah. He was like, you know, they're willing to use me for, you know, the pull series.
Yep.
He's like, but I want to be like a viable option movement quality wise for the squat series and the press series as well. Like I want to be able to be used for a demo for everything.
Yes.
So he was like, so what me and Lachlan did for a while was we did, I forget if it was 10 or 20 reps. It was something like that. 10 or 20 reps of all 9 foundational movements with a PVC pipe and a medicine ball for the med ball clean.
Sure.
And it was like, you did them slowly first, and just like kind of worked on positions. And as you started to feel better with it, like you moved them faster and tried to make it like more game speed demo. And my God, like that was, again, similar to the air squat thing for Rich and James. That was our warm up for training
Yeah.
every day for probably like a solid 6 months. And then guess what? This was the proudest moment in Lachlan's seminar staff career, was he got picked to do a squat demo while James was also on that seminar. Like,
Ooh.
so Lachlan did the squat demo instead of James. And so I think it was James that picked him because James was the flow master, but
Sure.
still, like,
but like that's a nod where it's like, yeah,
yeah,
you
100%. Like you put in the work, and but like both of us started to move infinitely better due to that, because it's like we just spent time intentional practice on those movements and making it better. You don't need a mega mobility program. If you move with the intention of making your movement perfect, it might not be perfect now, but if you look back a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, I guarantee your movement will look infinitely more different without having to do an absurd mobility program or accessory program or insert whatever, auxiliary stuff people love to just chuck on top of whatever they're currently doing.
Yeah.
You don't need that. You need to move better. More isn't better. Better is better. And we've seen that all over the place. Well, so it reigns true.
It absolutely rings true. And I know like James's comment could sound like a cop-out, squat better.
Yeah.
Hidden in that is some very, very careful pieces of instruction that are not explicit. They are implicit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you were going to drive better, right? If you knew that you weren't comfortable driving, you didn't feel like you had it, how would you practice that? Well, not at high speed on a freeway.
Nope.
You would go to a parking lot.
Empty parking lot.
And slow down,
Yep.
And so like it's the same thing here. The purpose of teaching some of the things that we teach people is not to make it so that you do the movement. It's to get you to understand how to move your body in space, and not just how, but to get you to understand how to connect the thing that you are trying to get your body to do to what your brain is telling it to do consciously, and to understand that connection rather than, lift arm and like having it be haphazard, right?
Yeah.
At any point in time, I should be able to, in any movement, have you move slow and call pause. And you don't wiggle in and out of balance or anything like that. Like you should be able to move beautifully.
Control that shit.
For real.
Well, so that's where I'm currently like kind of getting back into, after all my injuries and everything's broken and whatever. I've said this before on the podcast. I skipped the entire charter of mechanics, consistency, and intensity. I never did.
So you're like most CrossFitters.
Yeah. I just fit the avatar for, average CrossFitter, whatever. But it's like, I skipped the whole thing because I was so like, I'm going to keep up with my friends. I'm going to go compete. I'm going to do the whole thing. Let's go faster, heavier, and more of it.
Yep.
Movement faults happen. I did the, 9 foundational movements with Lachlan, and that kind of was a slight step in the direction. And then James do some squat therapy, a step in the right direction. I didn't spend long enough doing that. So I'm starting over. I'm literally like, all right, let's come back down to baseline. Here's 0. Start from there. It's going to be slow. It's going to be a progress. But if I focus on controlling my movement, and I've got like little accessory stuff that I'll do to kind of like just strengthen areas that have been injured, but it's not necessary. If I focused on, hey, every squat that I do is going to be slow, controlled, and perfect. Yeah. In my pursuit of that, as things open up, get stronger, positions get better, those little muscles that were getting injured and are weaker are going to get stronger because you are controlling the movement. They have to work to control the movement. Yeah. I'm not just relying on bouncing my butt off my calves to do a squat. Like I'm actually using the musculature and my midline and everything to move and move controlled. And so you don't need a whole massive amount of stuff. Just do less better. Yeah. I just don't know if this is profound, but I'm like, can take an idea and like word it eloquently. this was like in one of a group chats for like our soccer team, but I think it rings true for like CrossFit stuff. When James said squat better, and you were like, it seems so simple type thing.
Yeah.
Is I made a comment, someone was making a comment about like some sort of soccer thing, like, hey, can we do this? And I was like, what was it? The mistake of the novice is mistaking complexity for competency.
Yeah.
Like that's way more complex, or that's something that must be the thing. It's like, no, the true mastery is in simplicity. The fact that someone can make something look so simple means they've mastered it.
Yes.
And can express such capacity in it. So it's like the fact that, to use James as an example, he can just like air squat perfectly without thinking about it is because he spent years perfecting and mastering that movement, so that now he's at a point that he doesn't have to think about it anymore. He's just like, squat, okay, got it. Like everything's perfect and where it needs to be and good to go. I'm not there yet, but we're going to work to get there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, so putting a bow on this, have CrossFit Games athletes earned the right to move like shit? No. I think what is worse is we have anointed them as a community, you know, not because they're the best movers, not even because technically they're the fittest. I mean, like, sure, they're still in the 0.01%, 0.001%, a lot of them, but like, there are people who we hold up on pedestals who didn't make it to the games, you know, and that's not to say that those people don't offer value to the community because they didn't make it to the games. Like, their value is not solely measured by their open placing or anything like that. But I think we'll never go wrong asking ourselves why we hold someone in high esteem like that. And it's the same with any sport, any kind of athlete, you know, celebrities, etc. Is it because this person is doing something that should be emulated, or is it just because I've got like FOMO and jealousy and I like how they present their life, and so I'm going to hold that up as they've made it, you know?
Wow. Sam just coming out and just dropping a like gut check for everybody that's got an Instagram account.
Hey man, like, the more...
That's some real shit right there. You're like, man, do I hold them in such high regard because they're actually doing something worth regarding? Or is it just because something struck a chord with me and I like the way that like they have a cat and I have a cat too. So I'm like, I like this person.
Or like maybe they don't even have a cat, but maybe like...
Oh, people will find something to connect with though. Like that, you know?
But so okay, we're gonna like veer off in the last 3 minutes here. Like, so maybe the thing that you are connecting with is the presentation that they make of a life that you desire.
Yeah.
You know, like I know plenty of CrossFit athletes who present a life of a certain type. They go and they do X, Y, or Z. They're seen with other people doing X, Y, or Z. Some of these things are rarely ever fitness related. And so like these people garner huge followings. And that's not to say that they shouldn't, but why? Is what they are doing something that you want to emulate, or do we simply see in the very, very small, contrived window that we have into their world, and it is 100% contrived and planned and airbrushed and all that shit, do you see in that something that is more desirable than what you see when you look around yourself?
Wow. I think we just end right there. Just like, people are going to be driving to wherever they are, just sitting in their cars, and they're just going to like, well, shit. Like, Sam just tore into my soul real quick and just like...
I think about this stuff constantly. And like, one of the best quotes
that doesn't shock me in the slightest.
Yeah, right. One of the best quotes that I ever heard was from a guy who's like an Olympia level bodybuilder. And he's like, don't lose time looking at other people's lives. Instead, spend that time making your life something someone else would want to look at.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Right? Alive time versus dead time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
that's it.
So we are out of time, but Kevin, as always, thank you so much for joining, and thanks for coming along for my whiteboard of mystery and misery.
Yeah. You know, I'm just here for Sam to ask a question to set me up for failure.
That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
That's it.
All right, homie. It was a pleasure talking to you. We'll chit chat with you soon.
Always.
Yeah, man.
Sounds good.
Everybody take care and stay fit.